Well, ChatGPT has launched their browser. It's going to be very interesting times ahead. Obviously, no doubt AI has made an impact on our lives, but what about robots? And that's something that I've been talking about a lot recently in a leaked memo today. Amazon is planning on replacing 600,000 jobs with robots. We're going to talk about that impact, what it looks like for their bottom line, of course. And we have some people in here, not huge fans of Jeff Bezos. What was that? He said Jeff Bezos stole 22,000 in tips from you over a 2-year period, and the FTC got involved. You know what's crazy about that? I don't think Jeff Bezos needs that $22,000 too much. Do you guys see, by the way, that NASA is like opening up? They'd contracted with SpaceX, and they're like opening up bids from Blue Sky now. That's interesting. Elon had a pretty funny response to their tweet about that. Man, can you imagine? It's just these billionaires like posturing for space exploration. Pretty wild stuff. But we will talk about the robotic side of things, the impact that that's going to have, but also where the investment opportunities are within robotics. You know, Uber actually, there's some reports coming out. Uber is doing something similar. They're kind of launching their own DePIN type data collection, if you will, with their drivers. Little do they know that they're collecting data to replace themselves. But if anything should make us more bullish on the DePIN projects, on data collection, or on data for autonomous vehicles. But let's get into the macro stuff, of course. Well, how about this? Gas prices, guys, across the nation, the average is under $3 a gallon. Lowest it's been since December of last year. Shouldn't be too much of a shock. We've been talking about it. Everyone's like, well, oil prices, they're talking about it. How come gas prices haven't come down? It takes some time. But oil prices are sitting at below $60, not at $57.37. Obviously, that's a big deal, not just for gas prices, but when you look at their correlation with inflation, oil prices are very heavily correlated. I've talked about this a number of times, and it's very timely because we have the CPI numbers coming out on Friday, and that could have a very big impact potentially on what the Fed decides to do. Of course, we have the FOMC meeting coming up pretty soon here. We'll have at least a quarter point rate cut is what is expected. But, it is actually unprecedented. They're releasing the CPI numbers when the government's shut down. And there's some reports about this. It says the September Consumer Price Index report is coming out Friday. It's going to command the full attention of markets. But some investors will view the data with a skeptical eye. And this is from the head of broad markets for Morgan Stanley. Said that skeptics like me are going to be focused on how clean this data is, because he's going to ask, what were the accommodations made for the lack of full personnel staff showing up? Obviously, with the government shutdown, the whole staff isn't showing up. Said what adjustments were made before the data got reported. The agency faces the added burden of staffing cuts even before the shutdown. So, Trump's been cutting staff for some time now. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. It says now they're putting together key inflation reports with most of the government closed and risks that sample data could be incomplete. So how accurate are the CPI numbers going to be on Friday? I would have bet that the CPI numbers are going to look good. Otherwise, why would they, rush to release them? They don't have to. They have every excuse in the book not to release the CPI numbers. I would guess they know what the numbers are already, and they're purposely, releasing them right before Jerome Powell makes this decision at the FOMC meeting. I don't know, just an inkling, right? It says the efficacy and the cleanliness of data. There will definitely be a little bit of skepticism had from my end, and I'm thinking the market will do the same. It says right now the consensus has the CPI report showing 3.1% annual inflation. So what does Polymarket say? And this is actually interesting. So 3.1% is the expectation, according to the economists. Y'all, we're actually seeing a shift towards 3% here. And in fact, Polymarket and the prediction markets tend to be pretty damn accurate. Prediction markets are saying that we could come in below what the expectations are at 3.1%. If we do come in below, obviously that would be good for making a case for rate cuts. I'm not saying that Jerome Powell is going to go from a quarter point to a 50 basis point cut because of a difference of 0.1%, but it could certainly have an impact on the language he uses around what they're thinking about for forward cuts, right? For the December FOMC meeting. It could certainly have an impact on what he says around that and how markets react to what he says. So that certainly would be something to keep an eye on. The FOMC meeting, I'll have to pull up the exact date. I believe it's early next week. CPI numbers will come out on Friday. If you look at Trueflation, we're sitting at 2.25%. Of course, that's not what the government uses. They use CPI. CPI, though, is based on a lot of survey data and kind of lagging data sources, whereas Trueflation uses a lot more data inputs and a lot more real-time data. So I don't know. We'll see. Jay Soto, I'll answer that in a second. Let's see here. And then as far as the rate cut decision, we're still sitting at 96% chance that we see a 25 basis point or a quarter point cut, 2% at 50 basis points. That said, there are some indicators right now that we could see a more aggressive cut. Maybe not in the upcoming FOMC session in October, but potentially in December. And the markets are saying as much. So the secured overnight financing rate call options, this trades on Fed interest rates falling to 3.5% by year end. So this has jumped to 926,000 contracts, the highest on record. Suggests that the market is pricing in 75 basis point cuts from the current 4.25. Says that the open interest for this has tripled since July. But in other words, investors are increasingly expecting at least 150 basis point cut. Maybe not in October, maybe not next week, but in December. So the markets are showing something different than what we're seeing in the prediction markets right now and what we've been seeing up to this point. That would be really big. Obviously, the markets are only expecting 50 basis points. All of a sudden, we get 75 basis points by the end of the year. That could be, something that raises the appetite for risk on investment. And we've seen that with the Russell 2000 recently, where that's been hitting new all-time highs. We've generally seen when that happens that crypto assets, Ethereum, for example, has very strong correlation to the Russell 2000. If we see more rate cuts through the end of the year, that would bode really well for risk on assets like crypto. So that could be one of the driving forces for us. A couple other things we've been talking about as potential catalysts. Well, one of them was the Russia-Ukraine situation, but we thought maybe they would have peace talks and things would get sorted out there. Well, earlier today, Ukraine launched a large-scale missile and drone assault on Moscow. And then this report came out that now there are no plans for Trump to meet with Putin in the immediate future. So this was something that was reported recently within the last week that they're expected to meet. Says this announcement came after a call between Rubio and the Russian foreign minister, and the White House official told Reuters that the call was productive, but they have no plans to meet in person. So sounds like maybe we shouldn't expect anything major to come from that anytime soon. So that's obviously unfortunate. On the China situation, The U.S. actually signed a critical minerals agreement with Australia today. Obviously, one of the big things with China right now is that they're threatening to hold back rare earth minerals. Obviously, it's not the minerals themselves. It's really the processing of them that they have a monopoly over. But regardless, this is obviously the U.S. trying to decrease their reliance on China for rare earth or critical minerals. It says that in the notes here, they signed an agreement Monday on critical minerals and rare earths that includes plans for projects up to $8.5 billion. A framework agreement between Australia and the U.S. comes as the Trump administration is seeking to establish critical mineral and rare earth supply chain that's not dependent on China. Obviously, this has to do with China. This was an interesting report that I just read recently. It kind of gives us some background on what might have happened with China and why things escalated. And this is not fully verified, but I do want to bring it up because it is one of these things, you see these reports and maybe in the news tomorrow, we'll be seeing this floating around more. Says from a reliable source on why Scott Bessent has a grudge against Lee. What's a Chin? I'm not even going to try to say that. Chin Gang. Says during the negotiation in Spain, this happened back in September, the U.S. delegation threatened more semiconductor control measures against China. So obviously, we've been putting strict restrictions on their ability to buy AI chips, right? It says that they then picked up the phone, China did, and ordered the anti-monopoly investigation against NVIDIA during that meeting right in front of Scott Bessent. So Scott Bessent was in attendance. They kind of did it. I guess this pissed off Scott Bessent. And then it said on the issue of the U.S. threatening to impose docking fees on ships built in China. So this is a big deal. Like we've made it a point that we want to start building ships again and be less reliant on China for our ships. We put docking fees on them. They went into effect last week. It said that they told us if we do that, they're going to impose crippling rare earth export control bans if we actually went through with those docking fees. And they told Scott Bessent that allegedly. And they said that Bessent didn't believe the warning, didn't take them seriously, and didn't even fully convey it to Trump. So Trump didn't even know that discussion happened, apparently. And that is why Trump was so blindsided with the rare earth export control when it went into effect, claiming that it came out of nowhere. But apparently they had discussed this with Scott Bessent and never got back to him, is what they're saying. So it's obvious Trump would be angry at Scott Bessent. So maybe there's some issues there. But it says who then needs to blame someone on the Chinese side. So as you can see, there is some potential here that Scott Bessent is the root of all of this, all this turmoil that we've seen. Now, we saw markets kind of go back and forth today. And some of that had to do with expectations of the China situation getting sorted out. And you might have seen some reports in the timeline where they're like, oh, Trump's meeting with China, things are gonna get done. And then like a second later, Trump's not meeting with China. And I'm like, what is going on here? Well, here's the video. So you guys can see exactly why those reports were a little conflicted.
And we'd be making nothing. It was a one-sided, honestly, we built their military. We built China's military with the money that we lost for so many years getting ripped off. So now we're going to have a fair deal. I think we're going to have a very successful meeting. Certainly, there are a lot of people that are waiting for it. Maybe it won't happen. Certainly, there are a lot of people that are waiting for it. Maybe.
At that point, everyone's like, oh, yes, there's going to be a deal done, right? And then a second later.
Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it won't happen. Things can happen where, for instance, maybe somebody will say, I don't want to meet. It's too nasty.
What the fuck, dude? What are you doing, man? What are you talking about?
But it's really not nasty. It's just business. And we're gonna do a good job representing you people and representing the people of our country. And
So basically, that's where things stand. We have no idea. Okay, like he literally just said, we're gonna get things done, we're gonna meet, and then a second later, maybe we won't meet, maybe we won't meet, maybe it'll be too nasty. So we don't know. I think part of it is like in the middle of his sentence, he's like, "Oh wait, I got to keep negotiating power. I gotta hold out. No, maybe we won't meet." He's like, I made it seem like we gave them too much power in the negotiations by me saying a deal will get done. I don't know, man. I don't know, but that is absurd, and that is why we saw these reports where everyone's like immediately posting, "Oh, he said that we're going to get something done," and then like literally at the exact same time, you see accounts saying, "Oh, maybe they're not going to meet," and that is where all that's stemming from. Man, crazy, crazy. Let's see. Before we get into crypto here, I want to see what comments we have. Is the bull run over? I covered that on the live stream yesterday. There's a lot of people saying that, because of the 4-year cycle, the bull run's over. There's, frankly, looking at the charts and a couple of the TA people I follow that have been really spot on, there's not a lot of reasons to be optimistic right now, at least where the charts are showing right now. Obviously, that's reading the current charts. It's not predicting what could happen. That's why you have to look at the macro events. You have to look at things that could come together. And I think there's plenty of catalysts for the trend to turn. Okay. But yeah, certainly, a lot of people are calling for the end. Yesterday, I played a video from Arthur Hayes. He tends to think that we're in an extended market cycle because of the global liquidity cycle. We have QE coming up. We have rate cuts coming up. So he's under I think he's a little hopium with his stuff, though. He's thinking that we're going to be in a bull run until the end of Trump's presidency. That seems a little bit too optimistic. Raul Powell said that he thinks we'll be going into at least Q2 of 2026 because the business cycle is being extended into 5 years versus what we've seen with 4 years. So I think that's maybe more likely. Rolling around, Trump better get it together. We'll see, man. What's interesting? I think I think I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if we do see things extend a little bit and then have some downtime. I think next fall could actually be really good for a number of reasons. I mean, think about this. Jerome Powell's going to be out in May. They're going to put somebody in there that's going to be cutting rates aggressively. There's no doubt about that. There's also some rumors out there that Trump might pass a stimulus, send out a stimulus check leading up to the midterms to gain favor with voters. And I've also heard rumors that he's going to legalize marijuana from some credible sources leading up to the midterms because that'd be a very popular decision. I would say I think it's like 70% of the country's in favor of legalizing somewhere around there. So I think that if we had the midterms coming up right now, I don't think he'd be pulling all the stunts that he's pulling right now. I think by that point, they're going to want to stabilize markets and want markets pumping before we move into those. Now, what happens between now and then is anyone's guess. There's plenty of catalysts potentially, but at the same time, you just never know what he's going to tweet, and on any given day. So, I'm under the impression, I think that we still have longer to run. Okay. Bear market next year. I think at some point, for me, like if we get back up to a point where we have fear and greed index back up to like 85, 90, for me, it's going to be a time to aggressively take profits. For sure. Yeah. Weed. Yes. Yeah. I've heard from some credible sources again that is going to happen leading into the midterms next year. They're going to kind of keep it in their back pocket. So that's kind of my thought, but keeping an eye on the fear and greed index. Alts are like the most oversold they've ever been right now. So I'm not looking to really sell my alts. I've repositioned into like the robotics sector in some plays I'll talk about later today. But I'm not really looking to exit at these prices in any of my alt positions just because we've been in a bear market all year, in my opinion, and we're already super oversold. So I don't really see the point. I say that now. But let's talk about some crypto stuff. So here we go. We want to share this tab. Here we go. All right. So bad day for Peter Schiff. We saw Bitcoin surging earlier. We saw gold dumping. And when you look at gold down 5%, doesn't seem like a big deal, right? until you consider the fact that, guys, this is a freaking, it was a $32 trillion asset yesterday, or 30 trillion rather. Uh, a 5% move in gold is like $1.5 trillion. That's a big freaking move in a day, it was bound to happen, guys. I mean, you got to think the way gold's been pumping and at the market cap it's at, it was due for some sort of a correction. You had people lining up outside stores to buy gold bars. Like, if that's not a local top signal, I don't know what is. I still think gold's a great hold long term. I mean, it's going to be a hedge against our freaking, fiat, reckless fiat currencies. So, like, I still think it's a great thing. Now, this is the question, right? Is gold going to rotate into Bitcoin? We've seen this time and time again. I certainly think there's a case to be made for that, and we've seen a little bit of it today. But I think you make a case for that for sure. Silver had a rough day too, down 6.6%. So we're seeing precious metals down a little bit. I still think it's really smart to have both in your portfolio for the long term. I think, Bitcoin to me has more upside, but I think all of them are really good to own, and they're better to own than US dollars, in my opinion. Like, you can't just like keep printing them as much as you want. You see Bitcoin on the day, we're sitting at 110. It's crazy to me that like we're still in like extreme fear and Bitcoin sitting at 110. It feels, why? We talked about this earlier. It's because everyone, people own some Bitcoin, but I own Bitcoin. But it's because altcoins haven't moved, a lot of people are sitting in alts and they're like, what the fuck is going on, man? He said that, Sloop, hell yeah, man. That's awesome. Like, I think gold is great to have in your portfolio, or have exposure to. Same with silver, man. I think silver actually still has a big run ahead, in my opinion. It just broke like a 40-year trend line. Like, I think silver can run too. All of them are good. You just want to diversify away from US dollars to an extent. But why did Bitcoin pump today? Part of it was certainly, that we thought, that there are signs that China would get resolved, but a big part of it was this Fed meeting that came up. So they announced yesterday, hey, we're going to have this crypto meeting with the Fed. And in particular, some of the statements that were made were incredibly bullish for crypto. So Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller says the central bank plan is entering a new era and cryptocurrency will no longer be on the fringes, while rolling out a new prototype to expand central bank services. He said, I wanted to send a message that this is a new era for the Federal Reserve in payments. The DeFi industry is not viewed with suspicion or scorn. Rather, today, you are welcomed to the conversation on the future of payments in the United States and on our home field, something that you would have been unimaginable a few years ago. So distributed ledgers and crypto are increasingly being woven into the fabric of the payment and financial systems. And Waller is one of the 7 members of the Board of Governors nominated in 2020 by Trump in his first term. So, man, those are some bullish statements from the Fed. That's pretty wild. Say XRP without saying XRP. I mean, I think so. But like, look at, I don't know, man. I mean, look at like a lot of these stable coins are talking about creating their own blockchains now. I don't know. I think XRP could be the play there, but I think also it might not be. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I do own XRP. I don't own a ton. I've been holding it for years, so I don't know. But obviously, I think that was the news that a lot of the surge earlier today came from. So, all right, let's see here. We've got some news from Coinbase. So there are some rumors, and Brian Armstrong last night was talking about how they spent, I think it was $25 million to buy this NFT for Up Only TV. Ended up, this is a big marketing ploy, actually. So it says the holder of this admission ticket, so what they bought, this NFT, can compel Kobe and Ledger Status into performing like Monkey's 8 episodes of Up Only TV. Everyone's like, why the hell would why the hell would Brian Armstrong in Coinbase invest 25 million into this NFT? That just doesn't seem right. Well, it turns out there's a lot more to the story as this announcement came out today. So Coinbase acquired this firm Echo for $375 million. Okay, so this is a platform that allows startups to raise funds directly from their communities. And this is just so happens to be, it was founded by Kobe. Okay, so that's the same link, right? The same as that show. So I think it was a package deal, more or less. So Coinbase has acquired Echo, a startup focused on-chain capital formation. It says that Echo has helped projects raise over 200 million across roughly 300 deals since it launched. The platform is going to allow startups to raise funds directly from their communities, either privately or through self-hosted public token sales, using a product called Sonar. In a statement, Coinbase said the deal would help build a full-stack solution for crypto fundraising. So, obviously, Coinbase continues to go full steam ahead, man. And this is a launch pad for them. So they're going to be able to, raise capital, help these, different companies launch tokens, and just going to be a launch pad with Coinbase. So obviously, very bullish, man, for crypto all around, and really for Coinbase and Base, I would say, very bullish news there. And how about freaking Chainlink, man? Another announcement. They said that they are partnered with Polymarket. And again, y'all, I know I harp on this, but prediction markets, we can't sleep on prediction markets. They are going to be absolutely much bigger than people even can fathom. Okay. They're going to be absolutely massive. And Chainlink, sitting at $18 right now, they're literally partnered with everybody. I mean, literally everyone, like every single institutional announcement that's come up, like Chainlink is involved somehow on everything. So sitting at $18, all-time high was sitting at like around, let's see, $50, $48.84 market cap was not quite as high. So there's been dilution since then. Over a $20 billion market cap sitting at $12 billion. And now we have all these announcements. I mean, I think Chainlink certainly has a lot of room to run. Speaking of prediction markets, though, like I saw this article, the DraftKings CEO. So this is kind of like the taxis and Uber, in my opinion. Okay, with the taxis being DraftKings, he said, "I don't see a world where bettors choose prediction markets over us." Mm-hmm. Famous last words, buddy. Says DraftKings CEO Jason Robbins said Tuesday, "I don't see a world where customers choose prediction markets over sports books in states where both are legal." He said, that prediction markets will prove valuable in states where betting's not legal, like California and Texas, but the rest of the country, well, he still believes they'll pick DraftKings over like Kalshi or Polymarket. Well, I would say that the markets disagree the past month with DraftKings down over 23%. Y'all, the markets speak, okay? And I just say that is not going to age very well for him. Not to say that they won't do well. Sports books are always going to do well, but you better believe prediction markets are going to eat into their market share. And of course, this is coming off the news recently. This was Polymarket. Their founder became the youngest self-made billionaire, 27 years old. Of course, they just raised investment from the parent company of New York Stock Exchange. They raised $2 billion on an $8 billion valuation. And Kalshi just raised $300 million on a $5 billion valuation. Prediction markets are going to get so much bigger. I think it was like Kalshi that was $2 billion just 4 months ago, and their valuation raised $3 billion in the last like 4 or 5 months. Okay, so that is a huge deal. Polymarket, by the way, looking at Bitcoin, I just wanted to pull this up because there's a lot of deliberation right now about where Bitcoin's going to go. Obviously, just looking out the next week and a half, a lot of people are calling for Bitcoin to drop below 100,000 to 90, 85,000. Only 16% of people are betting on Bitcoin dropping below 100K this month. Okay. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the risks to the market will likely be sorted out by then. You have the reports that the government shutdown will end likely before November. You have Trump meeting with China on October 31st. If we can hold above 100 grand and all that stuff gets sorted out, we have the rate cut. I think there's plenty of arguments to be made that November, December could still be very up from here. Okay. Obviously, we have to see how all that plays out, but I think that you could certainly make the argument. Okay, let's move over to some deep in stuff. Okay, here we go. Let's see on the daily. Aether up. Aether is a big market cap too. You know, they're the first ones to get added to a balance sheet of a publicly traded company in the deep end space. Obviously, we know the news about H&T forming a digital asset treasury. That's gonna be pretty freaking sweet. But that does bring me over to this report here. So this is the Amazon report I was talking about at the beginning. And these are some documents that got leaked. So it says here that, citing interviews and internal strategy documents, the New York Times reported that Amazon is hopeful its robots can replace more than 600,000 jobs it would otherwise have to hire in the United States by 2033. So not anytime, not tomorrow, but still 600,000 freaking robots. Despite estimating it'll sell twice as many products over that period. So not only are they going to double their revenue essentially, but they're going to cut their employees down by 600,000 over that same period of time. And this is the impact to their bottom line. They said it will save about 30 cents on every item that Amazon warehouses and delivers to customers. That is meaningful when you think about the amount of product they ship and the scale. 30 cents on every item. With automation efforts expected to save the company $12.6 billion from 2025 to 2027. So that's in the next 2 years that they're automating to that extent, saving $12.6 billion. So obviously a big deal. And guys, if you were wondering, if you were questioning, are robotics really going to take off? I think this should answer your question. Okay. And of course, when we talk about robotics and where the investment opportunities are, well, this post was put out by Beta Research, according to Kaido.ai here. And they list a couple of our favorite projects. You got Peak in there. You got Aoki, you got GeoNet, to name a few. GeoNet. Well, actually, let's talk about Aoki first. Aoki just did this interview with Vader. Let me I do have audio on there still. I'm going to play this just like an intro to this interview. Worth watching, by the way, guys. 29 minutes long. We're just going to play the intro, though.
The potential market for physical AI is 3 times bigger than the market for LLMs and other kinds of AI. 70% of the world GDP is still tied to physical locations and physical labor. I believe ultimately that there's not a single job performed in the physical world that couldn't benefit from an AI co-pilot. Elon even said that the Tesla Optimus robot, their humanoid, is going to be the greatest source of data in the world. And we've demonstrated that. And we're already making millions of dollars a year on the AI co-pilot that's in your hand. And we're going to make even more on the AI co-pilot that sits on your face. And we're going to make even more on the robots.
I mean, guys, if that doesn't want to make you add to your bags, I don't know what will. Yeah, they've got the handheld, they've got the glasses that they're working with, and then physical robots. Insane. Definitely watch that interview. Highly recommend it. And you look at Aoki. Obviously, it was down. I mean, it's up 50% on the year. Obviously, it's had a nice run compared to a lot of projects, but still sitting at $65 million market cap. They have several 7-figure contracts coming through. Like, give me a freaking break, man. So Aoki, I have built it up to be one of my larger bags now. I've been adding over the last couple months, and I'm going to continue. And the robotics narrative to me is the next big move, I believe. There's some people saying that it's AI agents with, being able to manage your DeFi transactions. Maybe. I think robotics plays are going to do really well, though. So Aoki, obviously, we have some big news out of GeoNet today. They are launching their enterprise portal. So the notes on this basically are that the GeoNet Enterprise Portal offers organizations a centralized interface for managing large-scale deployments of GNSS-enabled devices. Enterprises can now easily provision accounts, monitor usage, and access network performance metrics, all from a single secure dashboard. says it makes it easier than ever for businesses to scale precision applications across fleets, equipment, and global markets. They continue to execute. And for whatever reason, they're sitting at like a $40 million market cap at 12.65 cents. Okay. Like when the market rebounds, y'all, absolutely insane. So those are two obviously in the robotics sector. And then you have the data collection for autonomous vehicles. This report came out today that Uber is starting to offer side hustles to drivers to earn extra money. And I thought this was very wild. Okay, so Uber is offering idle drivers in the US the opportunity to earn extra income by completing digital tasks without having to make up trips or deliveries. Goes on to talk about these tasks. It says that Uber is collaborating with AI companies and using its drivers to train and refine AI models. Okay. So examples of digital tasks include a driver recording themselves speaking, submitting documents in different languages, or uploading images. Guys, they're essentially it does talk about the payment. Okay, so says that including a screenshot of a driver's app displaying, so this is a presentation, 50 cents for a 2 to 3 minute task, $1 task for a task taking 1 to 2 minutes, and $4 for a task for 3 to 10 minutes. It says that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to end up landing on. But guys, they're literally, they need the data, right? We know this. We know that they need the data to be able to train autonomous vehicle models. So they're paying them pennies essentially to collect the data to train models to replace themselves. Like that is so ridiculous, man. And it shouldn't be shocking, but I doubt these drivers understand exactly what they're doing. Like they're literally collecting data to help their company replace them with AI. You're like, for real. So if anything, this should make us a lot more bullish on projects like HiveMapper, right? HiveMapper now has mapped 36% of the world's roads. They just announced another partner. They just launched their monthly payment of $19 a month to get cameras out in the wild to collect data. You don't have to pay the upfront hardware costs, right? And what are we sitting at? Just under 1.1 cents. Ariel actually came on my space earlier today. I'm going to pull that up at the end, but you guys should definitely listen to that. Nadix, another one, right? They're collecting data with their device. You tap into Teslas and collect all the multi-camera data from Teslas. They're selling that data. Nadix sitting at right now $23.66 million market cap, right? And again, all this data is going to be necessary for these autonomous vehicles to be trained, for the models to be trained. And then, of course, you have Rover doing LiDAR data connected to GeoNet, has backing from Borderless Capital, sitting at, well, it's not really 1.32. It's more like 3. I think actually more like 8 million if you look at the actual circulating supply, but still very low market cap nonetheless. And I think all of these projects have major upside. All of the ones I mentioned right there. You have Alki, GeoNet, Honey, Nadix, and Rover. All of them are feeding into robotics. And that leads me to the Helium updates. So we had Matthew, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Bucklad. So he talked about her first hotspot deployment. He did it at a bakery, and he said it was like super easy. They had a horrible service there. Got them set up. Super happy with the fact that they can now have better connectivity in their bakery. And man, they're earning money, man. They're earning HNT. Speaking of Helium, by the way, and again, this is the space from earlier. Highly encourage you to listen to this space. Ariel came on. We had Nick with Blockworks on. We talked about how the market buys for Burns and digital asset treasuries are kind of an inflection point or a watershed moment for DePIN. I pushed Ariel a little bit on his stances on that, on market buys and when it should happen, but definitely worth listening to that space. And Helium, man, it is coming back up now. It's just under $2. So it had dropped down to $1.80 earlier. Guys, I just like when IoT do something. Are you still holding IoT token? I would transfer that into HNT, my man. Like I transferred all my IoT over to HNT. I'm not holding any IoT anymore, personally. That's just my feeling. But dude, I think H&T is primed. Win at 375 AI. So I think TGE for 375 AI is going to happen later this month, guys. I can't tell you an exact date, but I think it's going to be the end of this month. Okay. Okay. If you hung on with me till now, I'm going to cover a couple of degen plays that I added bags to that I actually think could do some crazy multiples potentially. Now I say they're degen plays because they are, okay, but a couple that, when you get into some of these when they're like below 100K market cap could absolutely fly. He said, no, I don't have any H&T swapped for Sol. Best decision. I don't know. I might think about switching that back, buddy. For real right now after the announcement that Helium made. Because Sol, I mean, think about it. Sol is a top 5 project. Let's say it hits new all-time highs by the end of the year. That's, well, what are we at right now? Let me look at the Sol price real quick. Sol's sitting at probably 190. So, just over a 50% increase. I think we could see H&T potentially do multiples if we see a market surge back. So to me, I actually think that I would actually bet that H&T over the next few months, if we do see the bull run continue, I think there's actually more upside from a percentage standpoint at H&T than Sol from here. I'll go on record saying that. You maybe I'll regret that. I don't know. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple of degen plays that I have pretty decent sized positions in from a percentage ownership of the total supply. So number one is this DPIN baby. So there's some speculation that this is actually IoTex that started this project. Bro, that's such I have to disagree. When you say it's a stable coin, yeah, that's because the revenue wasn't all being used on open market buys. That I believe they are mostly burning from their treasury. If all that revenue that's coming in right now is going to result in open market buys on a daily basis, you would have to increase the sell pressure far more than what we've been seeing. Even if the sell pressure stays the same where it is right now with that extra buying power, the price has to go up. So I think now that you've connected the revenue and the fundamentals with the token price, that's a game changer. I don't understand how people aren't seeing that. That's crazy to me. But I understand before that announcement, I understand having that sentiment for sure. But I have to say my view has completely changed after that announcement that they made. And adding a digital asset treasury, now institutional money can get exposure to H&T. So that opens up. When you think about it, what are we, a $4 trillion market in crypto? There's all the other markets in assets are there like $100 trillion. So I very much disagree with you on that. Okay, so DeepIn baby. So they have a DeepIn market intelligence or a DeepIn market intelligence. They've got like all these different, you can track all the different projects. You can look at different indexes, and they do have a token. And you see here, like they've been really adding a lot of updates to their platform. And again, there is speculation that maybe IoTex behind it or somebody associated with that project. Maybe, I don't know. We can't verify for sure. But it says here we've been busy building. They're rolling out new updates across the platform. This just dropped a couple days ago. They bought back 5 million DeepIn from the market. They also said that they are added a profile page to their platform, so you'll be able to see your DeepIn holdings. Based on your DeepIn holdings, you have different tiers and different credits that you'll be able to access research power. So for me, I'm not as concerned with the platform itself as much as the token, because the token's sitting at now it's at 83,000 market cap. It did get down a little bit lower recently, but it had this market cap got up all the way up over $2 million earlier this year. And we're sitting at 83,000. And that was before they even had a product at all or their website at all. So this is something that could certainly make moves. And we've seen it. I mean, even recently, this thing got up to 220,000 market cap, and we're sitting at 85,000 right now. Now, keep in mind, like if we got back to, I think it was 2.2 million, you know, that's a 27x. Is that right? Yep, 27x. So not saying we're gonna get back to all-time highs, but this is something that I have a decent sized bag in. You know, I have well over 1% of the total supply. I'm just sitting on to see what happens. You know, why not? And it's one that could run. Now, this one just got onto my radar today. And I'm going to actually let me reshare my screen here because I got to get my audio back. So this is a wild one. This is a pump.fun one. I don't normally get on those, but check this one out. So this guy is in Brazil. I'll play this video.
Okay, I'm going to have to deal with that anyway. There's nobody working right now. Let me just explain what we're doing here. If you're new here, we're building an Airbnb. We're going to be giving it away at 10 million market cap. We've got 4 giveaways to do, 4 houses. Each time they're going to get bigger and better. And we've actually made it official. We've become the first meme coin in history to have a notarized public declaration under Brazilian law. So in English, that just means I've doxed myself, I've doxed the giveaway, and I've made a public declaration with all the details of the giveaway, including the market caps, how it will happen.
So let's go into the website here. And again, man, like these are, I say they're degen plays for a reason, right? They're super low market cap, but they're ones that, you know, I have bags in that I think could do something, right? Could do crazy multiples because they're under 100 grand market cap. So this guy is literally building a house and he live streams it. They have it live stream all day, every day of him and his crew, like building this freaking house. When the token, their token hits 10 million market cap for 15 minutes, he says they'll raffle the first house. So for all token holders, if you have, for every 25,000 tokens you hold, you have a ticket. And whoever has the winning ticket freaking gets a house. It's kind of crazy, man. Right now, if we look at the token itself, it is sitting at a $63,000 market cap. So you see it has run up just a couple days ago. Like last week, it got up to 150,000. So again, this one still very early stages. Again, keep in mind with these degen plays, like it can go to zero, but the upside is also tremendous. I mean, if it did, let's say they did hit their goal. Let's say this thing went viral and they hit the $10 million market cap that they're trying to achieve. Divided by, what are we at right now? 63,000. That's 158x. Right? So like, will it happen? I don't know, man. Who knows? Who knows? I would say it's less likely, definitely that'll happen than actually happening. But we'll see. For me, I grabbed a bag just to see where it goes. I thought it was interesting, it was creative, and it does seem to be getting some traction actually. The person that brought this to my attention, I got in on Community Coin with him earlier this year, and that one did really well. Like really, really well actually. So he brought this one. I hadn't heard from him in like 6 months, and he's like, "Hey man, you should definitely check this one out." So when he brings them to me, I take a look into him, and I was like, "Yeah, he's worth a little bit of a bag. Nothing crazy, guys. Nothing crazy." So I wanted to bring that up to you, but highly encourage you to watch that interview with Nils from Aoki. Definitely give that space from earlier a listen, man. We had a really good discussion around DeepN and where things are headed, and how, you know, this announcement from Helium, I think, could really change things. What did Kevin say here? Helium Mobile went from about 0, that was a year ago, now it's 2 million. That revenue, along with daily market buys, means H&T will go up. Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, unless the sell pressure just steps up. Keep in mind, they just bought out that early investor that was selling, had a huge sell wall on Coinbase. That's gone now. That's out of the equation. So to me, the stars are aligned. And I think that you have to be able to adapt to things changing, you know, like this mindset that H&T is just a stable coin. Yeah, but things have changed after that announcement. That changes things a lot, in my opinion. So you have to be able to adapt to pivots with these projects, man. But it's really, I mean, at this point, I was talking to Suburban about this earlier, like, if this does work for them, and I don't see a way it doesn't work. I mean, it's just a question of like, how effective will it be? How much will it impact price? We haven't started to see the open market buys yet. They just announced it on Saturday. I think it's going to get to a point now where like every project has to do it. And maybe it's not right away, but I think every project's going to have to follow suit. And, when I'm looking at these projects now, if they're just planning on burning from a treasury and not doing open market buys, at least at some point in the project, it's not stated in their, in their white paper, in their tokenomics, I'm looking at it as a trade. I'm not really interested in investing in it at this point, because it's just a complete disconnect between the token price and the revenue. Unless the fundamentals are going to come through into the token price, it really is no different than any other crypto project, in my opinion, at this point. Like, yeah, you have a great use case. You have a cool thing to talk about, but like, what does that do for token holders? Nothing. That's a great story, but like, why would you invest in the token? Why would TradFi investors that actually do their research and don't just buy off a hype? Why would they buy into your project? I just don't see it, So that's kind of where I'm at with it, and I think we will see a lot of other projects do it. So exciting times ahead, guys. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the next week and a half, and obviously Friday's gonna be really fun to keep an eye on the CPI reports. What will inflation come in at? Whew, that's what I got for you guys. I will be on tomorrow for sure, and we have I'm gonna be on a space on Thursday too. I'll cover that tomorrow with Geo, Ned, and a couple other projects on Thursday, one that I'm not normally on. So I'll give you guys a heads up on that. With all that said, guys, have a fantastic Tuesday. This is episode, I think, 85. Man, coming up on episode 100. That's exciting. I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Peace.